have to wait for the picture? Okay, we're going to start. Good evening. Welcome to the November 14, 2018 regular meeting of the Milton Select Board. This is our first meeting since town meeting, you know.
That's right.
It is. So I'm going to begin by calling our meeting to order. We're going to go right to item 2, which is a public hearing, Wallaston Golf Club liquor license amendment, and I'd call Attorney Cochran. Do we know you? I'll call Attorney Cochran to the table, and I know you're joined by several members of the Wallaston Club, and you are free to bring any of them with you.
Rick Shaughnessy, who's the general manager of the club, to join me, and I have a
Good evening, Rick.
PowerPoint
Good evening.
presentation that I understand has been loaded onto each of your computers.
As soon as he finishes.
And I have one.
Watch it.
We'll start here. I'll start
Thank
here.
you.
Good. When is it going to review this? Okay, yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will be recusing myself as I am a member of the club.
Very good. Thank you. So the floor is yours, and
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, for the record, my name is Ned Corcoran. I am an attorney. I'm here on behalf of the Wallaston Golf Club, and I'm joined at the table by Rick Shaughnessy, who's the general manager, and I'm joined by others who are members of the board of the club. We're here because recent improvements at the club have led us to request an amendment to their liquor license. And so, I don't know whether, let's see how this works. Okay. I'm not sure how you will be seeing what I'm seeing on the,
is that in your PowerPoint?
it's in my
I
PowerPoint.
think that's slide 7.
So that is
It
slide
is
number 2.
Slide 2, all right.
So if you go to slide 2, slide 2 is an aerial view of
Yeah,
the
they look
club.
the same to me, okay.
The last 2 slides are equivalent to this. Earlier this year, the Board of Appeals granted an amendment to the special permit under which the club exists. The club is a nonprofit entity, exists by means of a special permit that was granted in 1973 when the club moved from what was the former
President's.
location over at the President's into the new location at 999 Randolph Avenue. And over time, the board has granted amendments to that permit as the club has expanded its facilities. This year, the board granted a significant amendment to allow the construction of a new golf building, which would do 2 things. One, the purpose of which was to create a new area for the pro shop and men's locker room, and some simulator areas, and then in turn would allow the redevelopment of the existing club with much improved facilities for the women, expanded banquet area, and whatnot. And so the board granted that request. So the next slide, slide 3, would be more of a close-up aerial of the existing clubhouse with the swimming pool to the rear on the right, and to the left is what was the cart barn. Now, slide 4 will show you sort of the plan of improvements. On the right-hand side is the existing clubhouse with some exterior improvements to the deck, but on the left is a new golf building. It's a 2-story golf building with a basement area that's dedicated to carts. And that is the area that primarily we're seeking an amendment to the liquor license. The liquor license currently covers the existing clubhouse, the swimming pool, pool deck, and some other locker rooms and other areas, but was obviously never considered to incorporate the new golf building. And so the purpose of that is to really extend into that area. The next 2 slides are floor plans of the 2 habitable floors within the new building. The first shows the lower level, which is the pro shop on the right, simulator lounge with 2 simulators. There'll be sort of indoor driving areas with computer graphics. with a simulator lounge, and then the next floor, next slide shows essentially the men's locker room and the improvements there. And those two floors are what need to be incorporated into the license. Additionally, as we were preparing the application, we discovered that the club has been operating a beverage cart service essentially for the entirety of the 45 years that it's been operating, but unbeknownst to the club, didn't realize that the beverage cart service was never incorporated into the license. And so they've been really sort of operating in the breach, if you will. And that was a concern I obviously had, relative to liquor license liability and whatnot. And so there's recent guidance from the ABCC regarding how and under what conditions beverage cart service can be actually incorporated into a license. There was a case that they handled with the Georgetown Golf Club. And the guidance led to some ideas, some ways in which the licensing board could approve the license. The next slide, so one of the critical things is that license cannot be authorized to traverse on a public way and cannot be allowed to traverse within a parking lot. Parking lot's treated as if it's a public way. The entirety of the area that the cart operates in is within the outlines of the club, and was specifically suggesting in the recommended set of conditions that I gave you that we would not be incorporating the area within the parking lot. So the course on the left-hand side is basically the front 9, the right-hand side is the back 9. There are cart paths around all of the tees and greens, but as you leave the teeing area, you basically essentially head into the fairways and you connect to the green area, and then the cart paths will take you around the green. So that's the area that would be requested. One of the things that the guidance provides is that there be no alcohol, signs posted, no alcohol beyond this point. So the next slide, slide 8 of 9, is intended to match the proposed set of conditions that I gave you, and each of the areas I've in letter form identified. So area A would be no alcohol beyond this point, signs at the areas where the course you could enter into the parking area. B is in the left-hand side, that is around the 4th tee. You can see there's a residential areas that kind of ring the northwesterly side and the northeasterly and the southeasterly side of the golf course. In those areas where it's possible to sort of step through wooded borders, you can see lawns on the other side. It's appropriate that those would be locations where you would put. So B would be around the 3rd green, 4th tee. C would be along the left-hand side of the 4th fairway. D would be behind the 4th green, and then I guess I've mismarked. D again would be as you head into the back 9 would be between the 10th tee and the driving range. No desire to bring the cart into the driving range. E would be behind the 12th green, the 11th green, 12th teeing ground. F, obviously an important location, is proximate to the entry into the site from Randolph Avenue. And then G would be along the 13th fairway. Those are the areas where it's possible to step out off the golf course into private property. The rest of the area all along the 16th and the 2nd and 3rd holes is all wooded and no capability. So the request obviously is to request is that the board would approve the inclusion of the liquor service within the operation of the beverage cart. and in accordance with the conditions that I suggested and mirror conditions that were approved by the ABCC in the Georgetown case.
I know that Quincy, on the Quincy side of Granite Links, they're licensed as well, so it's a more common thing than,
Right.
I said that to you when we spoke. It's more common than not.
And so with that, I'd open it up to questions that the board may have. Thank you for your time.
I'm okay. I've already kind of looked at this, so.
Just a couple of questions, Ned. On the conditions that you gave us tonight, there are a couple of things in the application, a couple of restrictions in the application, or conditions in the application. It talks about restricted to operating on a series of car paths around the tee and green areas into fairways. Cart operators will be tips, all caps certified in the same manner as bartenders, waitstaff, and other service. Would those conditions be part of the conditions here as well?
It could be. There's certainly the tips could be. I think and you could also define more specifically the area, so the combination of the conditions that I laid out in the application could be combined with that.
I think
I'd
the
be
tips
happy.
are specified in your license, is in your regulation from the ABCC as well, anyway, under 138, having people tip certified, correct?
I believe
Right.
that, yes.
Yeah.
We do it annually with our
Right,
staff.
right.
All right, so maybe those will be included in the conditions as well?
I can either amend that and deliver that for Christine to share with the board, or?
No, I mean, as long as it's done, I think it makes sense, just so it's consistent, you know, I'll have the same restrictions in the application as you do in this. I think it makes sense. And just one other thing, the club is a 501c7 nonprofit, or
Yes.
I believe that's
501c7?
right.
Okay.
Well, I had some questions regarding specifically the beverage carts, and one of them, I think you've answered. I was going to ask you why is that being requested now, given that the club's been in existence for a long time and that hadn't been done previously, but you're saying this actually has been done previously, so I think you've answered that question.
As far as from the answers that I've gotten from members is in their living memory, there has been beverage cart service on the golf course. It's predominantly beer and wine, served 3 or 4 days a week. There's also sodas and soft drinks and food, coffee as well. But it's not a full beverage service. The guidance from the ABCC says it can't be that the types of alcohol cannot be restricted. The beverage cart has to have the ability to serve whatever else is served under the license, because it's just an area of the property that's served by the license. It's not a separate license. But in practice, the club does not provide other types of alcohol generally than beer and wine.
Okay, and this is a private club, so are there other private clubs that you know of, Ned, or anyone from Wollaston, that also have a beverage cart that operates along the fairways? And
Yes.
specifically, like, I'm thinking of Black Rock in Hingham, or maybe the
I
Dead
know
End
that
Country Club.
Marshfield, Marshfield straddles two towns.
Right.
In Pembroke, I think it is not allowed, but in Marshfield, it is allowed. As Chairman said, Quarry Hills allows beverage cart service. In Quincy, I'm not sure that they've ever applied for beverage cart service here in Milton, and I know that they don't have a license. The license doesn't extend into Milton.
I don't think they've applied, at least for my time as chief as well, I don't remember them applying, but I did know Quincy from prior boards and being chief, that Quincy is licensed.
Right.
I know, to me, nothing, you play golf way more than,
Blue Hills Country Club has
Yeah.
beverage cart service.
yeah. It's more, to me, it's more the norm than it is,
Most of
An
the
exception.
majority of private clubs.
right, private clubs, right.
have them.
Franklin Park Golf Course, George Wright Golf Course, they have beverage cart service.
I'm more inclined having it licensed than not licensed, I just,
Well, that's
Yeah.
new information, yeah,
Yeah.
that this has been happening without it having actually been licensed. Because obviously, the only concern is public safety, since this is a we all know
Right.
how difficult the traffic is on Randolph
Yeah.
Ave, and especially anyone trying to exit there, taking a left after they've had a couple of drinks, that would be a concern. Have any of the, I guess we're gonna open this up to see if there's anyone here in the audience who may be in opposition or who may have concerns. What I'm particularly concerned about would be the residential areas around the club, and looks like you're proposing to cover, I guess, all of the residential areas with these signs that, no alcoholic beverages permitted beyond this point. I guess I'm just interested in whether there's anyone here from any of the abutting neighborhoods who has a comment or a question.
Is there anyone here to speak to this tonight, this hearing? No, okay. Okay.
And just, Ned, one other question. You mentioned a Georgetown case that set forth some requirements for a beverage card. Is that what you said?
What they did was they addressed the issue of under what conditions could a beverage cart be licensed and included within. So it was a 2009 decision of the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission with some guidance that was available as well. You say that the grounds of the course must be contiguous and appurtenant to the licensed premises, public ways that may intersect or interrupt or divide the grounds. In that case, they have to have a separate permission, transportation permission under Chapter 138, Section 22, for a cart to cross a public way. No license shall permit any patron to possess or carry alcoholic beverages in or on a public way. At each crossing of a public way, each licensee shall post signs stating no alcoholic beverages permitted beyond this point at appropriate locations. What I'm suggesting is that we extend that not just to sort of the area of where the driveway meets Randolph Avenue, but that also all areas where it's possible to step off the golf course into private property. And that parking lots of a golf course be treated the same as a public way, so that alcohol cannot be served within the parking lot area. I can leave copies of these decisions.
Yeah, that would be good if you could circulate that. I don't know whether we were planning on, whether the chair was intending to take a vote on this tonight. I know sometimes with the liquor licenses in the past, we've had to, over a period of 2 meetings, work out the conditions that we may want to, impose upon the applicant. And whether, it sounds like we may want to take a look at that case and see whether there's anything else in there that we should consider for conditions. At least that would be my thought.
Want to do that, and I'll put it on for the 28th for approval? Is that all right with you? You want us to come back? That way we can look at any other concerns that we have? You all right with that?
That's fine with me if that doesn't present a timing issue in terms of the application to the ABCC.
You're gonna be, am I correct, you're gonna be closed for a couple of months, am I right? At least, it's gonna be a couple months before the new building's
The
open?
clubhouse is effectively closed now
Right,
until
that's-
sometime in May. The golf building, pending a certificate of occupancy, will be open within 2 or 3 weeks.
28th, all right, could you live with November 28th for approval?
Sure.
You sure?
Yes.
Tell, if you, okay. So we'll put it on for the 28th, if you can just get us the Georgetown case, and then
28th 's fine.
we'll take a look at it, and then we'll put it on for approval for that night, if that's okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Ned, one question before you go. I saw where you served notice on all the abutters, which is great, and you checked them off. What do the stars mean next to some of those addresses?
I don't know, it's, the town served notice on those, on the abutters.
Okay.
Let me see
I
this.
see it.
Can you see it?
What slide is that on? Two?
So I am on page 47, 46, 47, 48. And it's a list of all the abutters. And then if you slide over to the address, there's
I
a
see.
star next to some of the addresses. I didn't know what that signified. Just trying to get some clarity on that, that's all.
I don't know, I haven't seen that.
All right, well, we can get that answer. All right.
It's not fire hydrants, is it? That's the only thing, I'm just, those are things that get marked on our G, I'm just wondering if that's,
It's just a series of check marks and stars, so yeah, we
28th.
wonder if that mean has any significance.
okay. Anything else? Okay, 28th,
You see what I'm looking?
thank
Yeah,
you,
I see.
thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming in, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so with this,
I'll leave some copies of the Georgetown case tomorrow
That's fine. No, you can just email it to Michael and he'll get it to us. Is that all right? Is that all right with you, Katie?
Thank you.
Yeah?
Yes.
All right, yeah. Okay, at this time, we're going to go into executive session to meet with our loss vendor, insurance company loss vendor? I don't even know.
Health insurance consultant.
Health insurance consultant, yes, health insurance consultant, Cook and Company. You still out of Norwell? Still Marshfield. I knew it was South Shore. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session. I'll take a roll call. Mr. Wells, yes. Mrs. Collins, yes. Mr. Zulus?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes, I think we need to state the reason, though, on the record.
Oh, yeah, so I'll come, all right, and Mr. Farrington?
Yes.
So the reason is conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. So at this time, we are in executive session, and for the record, we'll be joined by representatives from Cook and Company as well as representatives from the Milton Public Schools.
Your interest and your willingness to serve.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. That's
Thank you.
wonderful.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move that we appoint Wendy Garpo of 11 Brandon Road, number 2, and Gerard Burke of 521 Center Street to serve on the Conservation Commission through November 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in, too. Sorry you had to wait so long, so.
Thank you. I will
Okay.
add, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Burke is also a member of our Stormwater Advisory Committee. We met last night, and he was under the weather, but showed up and probably shouldn't have because he was under the weather. So I know he planned on being here tonight, but Mr. Burke will also be a great addition
Yes, he will.
to the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Thank you to him as well. Item 5, do we have anyone here at all for citizen speak? Okay. Oh, yeah, actually, I'm gonna do this, so our next, just item 4, confirm future meeting dates. Our next meeting is November 28th at 7 o'clock. We all good with that?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, are we going to post for November 19th? That's that Courageous Conversations event that I think some of us are going to.
I think it might already be posted. If not, we'll just post that just for attendance,
Yeah,
correct? Just for
yeah.
attendance,
Great,
okay.
thank you.
Okay.
That's at the high school,
At the high
correct?
school,
I
yes.
think so.
5, citizen speak, anything? Okay. Number 6, we're going to put off till the 28th. Number 7, we have discussion with the library trustees and a Kidder Branch update, and I ask them to come, John and Kristen to come, and Will to come and join us at the table. Grab another chair, Will, so you have 3 when you get there, and then,
Good evening.
Good evening.
good evening.
Evening.
How are you? Thank you for coming in.
Yep. Just for introductions, I'm Christine Hodlin, one of the library trustees, and
John Polcarelli, Chair of the Trustees.
And Will Adams, the library director.
so thanks for having us. You have a presentation up there, which a version of has been seen by this board at least a couple times or more. And just, we're here because we're going to be resubmitting the article to allow the trustees to sell the Kidder Building again at the next town meeting. And just wanted to come back here, revisit the process that we went through to get through that, the communications that we've made, see if you have any questions, and also hope to find out if this board, which has changed, a little bit of change since the last time, and confirm that you are still in agreement with where we're going. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those. So this first slide, I'm not going to go into detail on all of these, but this is just some background on the actual property that we've provided in the past.
Right.
It was turned over to the trustees in 1928. And it is still zoned residential, or it could be used for educational purposes or by a nonprofit. So those haven't changed, and we have no intentions of advocating a change at all for that. This next slide is really just a picture of when different organizations used the library. So it was a library branch until 1996, KEDS, the Council on Aging, And right now, Discovery Schoolhouse is still presently using the building. So we took the building back for a couple of years during the renovation, 10 years ago, but haven't used the library since for that purpose. So the communications and process, I'm just going to try to highlight this for you a little bit. We told Discovery Schoolhouse, they were the first people that we notified to let them know that we were opening up this process to look at the long-term vision of the building, because they were renting it at the time, and we felt that they were, may need to make some adjustments, and just wanted to make sure that they were aware of what was going on. Together, the trustees developed a process to actually share that vision with everyone, so we came up with a timeline with some calendars. Over 3 years, we were looking to hopefully make that decision. I think it ended up being closer to 4 years, but we're at the end of that. We held many meetings and had lots of communication, a lot of them formal meetings with the select board. We've talked to the town administrator, the planning board, Parks Department, planning. We met with the historical committee, so a lot of different town boards and people that we've talked to, elected officials. Really to request, one, to let them know what we were doing, and that we were looking for their input if they had any ideas on uses of the building or had any input whatsoever. We were, at that point, really just gathering information from people. We talked with the chair of the planning board at the time to request a member of the planning board to participate with us. And April Lamoureux at that time was assigned to work with us if we had any questions regarding, the property or, zoning or anything that they might be able to offer. I can't tell you how many tours we did at that building, but there were quite a few. I was over there quite a bit for a couple of years. So, and we did hold an open house as well for the neighbors and the community. I know several of you were able to attend at least one of those tours. And we engaged many groups in discussing options for using the Kidder. The teen center was one of the really popular items that was put out there initially. And in that regards, we, met with the park commissioner. One of the trustees of the parks, I think, came over to the actual building to look at it for that purposes. The Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Committee was very interested in the building as well. They held a meeting with their committee and their board, and met with the Discovery Schoolhouse director and decided that they were not interested. I met with the Milton School Committee because I think at the time they're still in the same place, looking for a place to house maybe their preschool. They thought maybe the building might fit into just being a preschool only. But when they actually toured the building, it's not big enough to build more than even 2 classrooms for a preschool. That's
In the existing, if we use the existing structure, correct?
in the
If you-
existing structure, yeah.
right.
In the existing structure, it could not house more than 2 classrooms, just because of the size that's required for preschools or kindergarten. So they said, we are not interested in the building, we have no interest. Milton Access TV came over. They were at the time looking to possibly move their facilities, so we met with them. The Milton Food Pantry was, again, over several times, and they came to visit. They were seriously considering making some renovations to the downstairs part of the building, although they would prefer to use upstairs, but they were looking to see if they could pair with Discovery Schoolhouse to work something out, but they ended up going back and working it out with the location that they have and made some changes there. The Community Baptist Church, actually, the Discovery Schoolhouse has them using the building on Sundays right now. We weren't aware of that until we went over there, and they are still interested in the building. They would be one of the people interested in purchasing the building. Them and the Discovery Schoolhouse board are both people that are interested in actually purchasing the building if it were to come up for sale. Milton Hospital is another one. I got several queries. John Cronin suggested to call them. I talked to people at Milton Hospital several times offering for them to come and look at it for space. So these are all the specific groups that we talked with, besides, publicly looking, for input or whatever. So I'm just gonna stop talking for a minute and see if anybody has a question on any of those, or,
Would you work with a broker, Christine, to broker the sale?
would we?
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to do that. We'll have an RFP that goes
Right.
out, so we don't need to hire a Realtor. The trustees can sell the building themselves.
You have to do, you have to do an RFP, right? Because it's municipal, it's right, it's municipal property, you're gonna have to do an RFP.
Yeah.
Because I know that when, one of the tours that I was at, I think this was one, did we bring the state, were you there that day? We brought the, DC, was it DCH? One of the-
DCHD.
DCHD, and we talked about an RFI just to see what you might get, but then they were, I recall they were like, do the RFP and see. Do you have a vision, the trustees, that you, what you'd like to see it become? Like, do you have like a, that was one of the questions that the warrant committee was asking us, like, do you have a vision what you think would go there, or do you think someone would buy it and tear it down? Do you think someone would build in the what do you
We
think
don't
would
know.
happen?
I mean, there's been a few different people. There's a couple people that keep calling me, asking me when it's coming up. I think there's people that might be interested in putting in maybe a couple condos. I really don't know what all the interest is that's out there.
So
The
you would just-
trustees don't have a vision for
So you would
the
just put an
building.
RFP that it's for sale,
We're gonna put an RFP out there for a
Just-
sale,
as is?
as is.
Okay.
Yep, as is, totally as is. And it's been valued as is, without any changes to it. We have no intentions of making any changes or putting money into the building, as is. It could be torn down and put up two single-family homes. It's totally zoned for that.
Right.
And that's that actually is something that requires almost absolutely no permitting or whatever, because that's what the property is there for, except the tear-down part of it, which would require the historical commission to be involved. So we met with them and talked to them about it, so they're aware as well.
And we've been working with town council on the drafting an RFP for the sale of it.
So you would have to go to town meeting, correct, to get town meeting to approve this? Is
We have
surplus
to
to
have
sell?
town meeting approval to authorize us to sell it.
Right,
It's
that's-
just a regulatory thing, that's all that's in there, so.
And if they
it's-
don't? That's my concern, because that was the feeling I got at the warrant committee, was that there was a feeling there that they
If
don't
town
want.
meeting doesn't approve.
Yeah, then what do you do?
Then we'll do something else with it.
Okay.
We'll, I don't know, rent it again, I don't know what we'll do.
And I know, when we were at the warrant committee, it seemed, I mean, we've talked a lot, that there was a underlying feeling there that this could go somewhere in town, that somehow the town should retain it, keep, I'm sure you've heard this at some
Right.
point or something, just, and I think that's part of the reason why it didn't get to this most recent town meeting, to the fall town.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we weren't at that meeting when that
Right.
conversation happened, which probably would have been helpful, but it's not town property, it's really library property.
Right, I get
It belongs
that.
to the trustees, so it's not town property. And, you know, we've tried and, you know, we've been willing to open it up to the town if they were interested in purchasing it or doing something with it or renting it or leasing it or whatever, but, you know, that's been going on, like I said, for almost 4 years now. So if there's still more ideas or more interest, I guess we'd need to know what that is, like, right away. And we'd need some kind of a timeline for that, because in the meantime, we're kind of moving along. And it's costing the town and us all money
Right.
to keep it as it is, so.
I mean, it's a drain on library time and finances, but it's also a drain on consolidated facilities and other town departments that have to work with the upkeep of the building too. So it's, you know, it's affecting more than just the library. And there is no vision for it reopening as a library
Oh, I-
branch.
I get
We
that.
consolidated as a town into a main library less than 10 years ago, so that's not something that we foresee anytime in the near future.
I think part of the problem with the warrant committee also is that they were not aware of what you've just described, the process you've been through, all the meetings, all the interested parties you've tried to bring in and out to generate some interest. So unfortunately, as you said, you weren't there that night, and they should have had you back in to ask
We were
ask
there
those
the week
questions
before.
of.
They were this close to voting it in. There
I
was
know,
one
it was a
question,
surprise.
Yeah.
And we walked away, Chris and I were at the historical commission right next door and left the building and, you know, found out later that they voted it down, apparently because somebody hadn't been there the week before, you know, had a different idea, but That's,
What was that question, John, do you remember?
it was just on the wording of the warrant article.
Yeah, that was.
He just didn't
the-
understand, and the town solicitor was easily able to explain what it was. It was just you had to transfer it, the trustees had to transfer it to themselves for the purpose of sale. I think that's the
Right.
languages I
Yeah.
remember. So it's just a technical.
It was a language question, not an issue question.
Right.
And as trustees, you have a fiduciary duty to accept the highest bid that is received? Is that?
No,
No,
we don't.
no, no,
No, we
no.
don't.
No. I mean, but as trustees, we have fiduciary responsibility to the library
Right.
to fulfill its mission, and this is not fulfilling its mission.
Right.
Right.
And, you know, all the talk about what could be and what can't, you know, our library director spending, 30% of his time as the landlord. Consolidated Facilities is going over there. You and the taxpayers are subsidizing the Discovery Schoolhouse, which is very nice, but, I think that's a choice that the town should make
Right.
in a more rational manner. But right now, we're just stuck. So if we don't sell it and town meeting doesn't agree, we're just gonna have to continue this, because we're certainly not gonna be able to put in the money to it to make it more
Right.
appealing to another tenant. I mean, this is just an endless cycle of,
Right.
just a border
around and around.
building continuing.
So it's fair to say, John, that the trustees don't want to be in the position of being a property manager anymore, right?
Right.
Right.
So just one question. There was a note in the slide, and maybe I missed it. It said that you all had hired an appraiser for an appraisal. What did that number come in at?
Came in at 1.2.
Oh, that
Right.
1.2, there
No,
was the
that's
market analysis
Actually,
above?
both of them. We had
Both
both.
of them,
So we
1.2.
had a market analysis done by one of the local realtors, Matt Freeman and Ruth Hayden. And then we also hired an appraiser that was recommended by the town, Bill Clark. And we called three of those different, I talked to three of those different appraisers, and we discussed the costs and prices or whatever, and we hired one of those appraisers. So we have also a formal appraisal that was done on the property in addition to the market analysis.
And they both are 1.2?
And they both came in at 1.2. And that's an as-is estimate. So again, that appraisal now is a little dated, and we'll probably revisit that again, but that should probably not change a whole lot. I don't think that things have changed a lot, but we will probably revisit that.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's just another part of the process that we've gone through. And, I know one of the questions that have come out is what's the cost to bring the building up to speed? I mean, that's a question that I don't think any of us can answer, and Bill Ritchie can't answer. I mean, he did give us an estimate. Initially it was, when we first started this in 2015, it was maybe around 600, 700,000. The last time it was not really gonna touch that, 1 to 2 million. We need to hire architects and engineers, and specific engineers with specific skills to really be able to evaluate the building and what's in there and what needs to be done. So we don't have an exact number, but it's probably in the $1 to $2 million range if we were to even begin to look at renovating it for any purposes like a library.
Right.
And that doesn't even include, then we'd have to include furniture and staff, which we're trying to staff the main library with some open positions. So I don't know that the town would be able to then also staff another branch. So that was really never on the table for us to reopen it as a branch.
And one of the arguments that we did hear from the warrant committee was that, once you let town property like this go, you can't get it back. But
Right.
we're in a real bind here. I mean,
Right.
none of us ideally would want to divest the town of, but we just can't keep operating it on this road to nowhere, essentially,
Yeah.
on the premise that somebody might want this for town use at some point in the future.
And we've had these I really want to see something that is amenable to that neighborhood go there. But I've wrecked my own brain so many ways I can't even count. So I get it. I get where you're at.
Yep, so we're really back. I mean, I think you were on the board when we met with Katie and, some of the other folks. And at that time, we came to you to say, before we brought this to town meeting,
Mm.
are you in agreement? And yes, the board was in agreement. I mean, we'd like you to be in agreement with us when we go back to the warrant committee and to town meeting. But, it's a different board and a different time. So I think we're back here again because it seemed like there were questions opened up that there was more due diligence or more work to be done. So we're here, like, what is that? Or is there anyone else that still has any other thoughts specifically to that?
The big one to me that I've had I've heard, I know the school's looking for space. The big one to me it's probably been the most eye-opening issue to me since I joined this board has been affordable housing. So that's been and I just felt, as I still, in my heart, I still feel this way a little bit, that somehow that there'd be some way to put something small that'd really be amenable to that neighborhood there. I just see that. I mean, affordable housing is a big issue for us here. It really is. And I say this to anyone who ever thinks of coming on this board, it's gonna be one of the big things that lands on your lap. And, so many projects here come in, I want 30, I want 40, I want 50, I want 80. I just saw that as a place where possibly you could really put in something really that would be amenable to the character of that neighborhood and the mission of affordable housing here, and that's still in my head. I would like to see it happen. I don't know how it can happen, but
I mean, that is another group that was there, and you were there at
Oh, I
that
know,
time.
I know,
So the
I
affordable
know.
housing group, and they should have put that on the list, and we'll add it to the warrant committee, but they also were there, and it's been almost a year. Tom Callahan came over, he was another person that we looked at for
Right.
affordable housing. So the property is still there. There's nothing that, if we sell it, it can't be done for affordable housing, but I think he was looking, how's he gonna buy it? And he was looking to, I think, go in with the state group that helps to do that, to see if there's a
Right.
way to get them to fund it through that, and partially the Pulte Fund, but, we can't really help make that happen,
Right.
but, we're there to try to, it could happen. So-
go ahead,
Some-
Sue.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The RFP process doesn't preclude something like that
Right.
from happening.
Right.
But I was at that walk, and the state did say that the cost to rehab, especially the lower levels, to make them habitable so that there's egress, is maybe not something that they would be interested in doing. So I think that we need to pay attention to those messages, but at the same time, I'm not saying we couldn't do that. But if we want to see that happen, then we need to come up with a way to buy down to affordability. But as you said, there's a lot that needs to be looked at, because we don't really know how sound the building is for those uses. So I think the RFP process doesn't exclude that. I also don't think, because the library trustees have such a specific fiduciary responsibility, that that could be under their purview. And 4 years of due diligence, I think, speaks volumes.
I hear you. She's a housing expert.
Housing expert.
No, but it's just, I've had that in my mind since,
Yeah. It's a great neighborhood, I agree. It's got the smart growth.
yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a
it's a very
food
good
store,
neighborhood.
and there's
Public
transit.
transportation, transportation, yeah.
So if we want to see that happen, I think we could try to make that happen. But I think at the same time, we have to help the library meet the needs that it has, and it has a resource to help do that.
So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, one way to, if we want to go down that road, is to fund the Affordable Housing Trust, because that would help. And right now, we don't have much in that.
Right.
And there may be an opportunity to do that, and if we do that, then we will be able to act on opportunities like this.
Right, if it really is an opportunity, because I think we always have to look at using the money to its best advantage.
Mhm.
And so that's just as much of a concern, because if we spend $1 million to buy something, and then it costs so much money to rehab, we've lost an opportunity to help more people. So I just, of course, it's important to get things done and get people housing as well. So there are just a lot of moving pieces for us to balance and to weigh.
No, that's right. My only point was, if we don't have the money in the Affordable Housing Trust, we can't even have the discussion.
Absolutely,
So-
absolutely.
I mean, if, like I said, you could hire engineers to give you an idea of what the building state is, if that would help. But
Did Matt, or I may have asked you this a long time ago, and I don't remember. Did either Matt Freeman or the other Realtor kind of give you an idea what they thought would happen on whoever does bid it? I just don't see it staying in existing.
You said people have been asking about it? Who?
There's one gentleman that has been calling me to ask me where we are in the process.
Any idea what type of?
I think he's looking to build some kind of housing, so I don't know any other details, so.
Bill, what zone is it?
It's,
C?
oh, that's
On the
not what
first page, it
says
tells you the
on
zoning,
here.
it's zone
It's, I
residential.
thought it was A,
It's
it's
section 3A and B.
So it's residential, not commercial, so you'd have to.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why it's at, as of right, you could build 2 houses.
Yeah.
And it's the
Right.
historical aspect and the tear down,
Right.
that would be, but you said you spoke to the historical commission.
Well, they didn't say they weren't gonna, we just wanted to let them know where we're at,
Right.
so.
Did they take any action on anything?
No, they wouldn't until if somebody was to purchase it, and if whoever the buyer was gonna tear it
Yeah,
down,
like
I think
demolition,
then
right.
they would come in and they would, you'd probably have to go before the historical commission at that time, that buyer would, and find out if it was okay. I mean, is it historical value, that's not for me to say, so.
Okay. Anybody else? All right.
So really, like I said, we're just looking to let you know where we are at the next steps. We've worked with town council on the RFP, and we're planning to hopefully go forward with town meeting and put the RFP out immediately after town meeting, assuming we get approval. So
You just send us a copy, you send Michael a copy of the RFP when it's done?
when it's published.
Right.
Yeah, when it's published, yeah?
public,
Okay.
yeah, it's a public document, yep. Yep.
And we're having a public meeting at the library on Monday, the 19th of November, at 6:30 for anybody who has questions.
Okay.
Process-wise, I guess, once there's an article, we could vote on whether to support the
Right.
article.
So we probably want to have you come back, or someone just come back once you do have an article, so that we could take it up on as an agenda item and to vote to support it. I think you'd
So
want to have that at
it's
town
the same
meeting.
article that was in the last warrant, exact same wording. We're not changing it. It's the same article.
Okay.
So you probably, I
we need
assume
to
you already voted on
send
it,
it in
or,
again, or is
but
that
you
okay?
can do that again if you want, but it hasn't
What's
changed.
going to come, yeah, so you're going to get up, you're going to town meeting, so the process is going to be, they're going to ask the selectmen to weigh in, do they support it? They're going
Right.
to ask the warrant committee to weigh in, this support it, so.
Yeah.
Right. but do you
So
want us
that's
to
kind of
rescind
why we're
it?
here, yeah. If
They
we have-
usually, you're not the article, you don't have an article, is it,
It's the exact same article, with the
same one.
exact same wording as the,
I can resend the article that they sent
Okay.
this summer.
we won't do that tonight, but we'll take that up, you don't have to
Okay.
come back.
I mean,
We'll
we
take it
can
up
come
on a later
back if
date.
that's necessary,
all right.
but
That's
it hasn't changed,
Now that it's
so.
done, we'll just take it up on.
I mean, we're looking for that support. That would be great
Okay.
to just be able to say that. We would love to have the support of the board, so.
All right, we can do that. We'll put that, you don't have to come back, we'll put that.
Just to follow up on the RFP, can we look at the draft RFP before it's ready to be
Um,
published? Because you're not going to publish until after town meeting.
Right.
I think we need to talk about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure that the draft is available for everyone to consider and look
Okay.
at. I mean, it's a standard RFP, it's standard, town council gave it to us, so it's following, those standards. We've had a lot of people that are interested in bidding on it, asking for drafts, so I'm not really sure that
Okay,
it's a
we can
document
check
that
with town council.
personally
Thank
I
you,
would
yeah.
feel but comfortable sharing, but I guess I'd want to.
Why
Ask
don't
the
we just,
trustees that.
I'm with you, Katie, why don't we just check with John?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
There's nothing unusual about it, so. And we're trying to leave it open, we're not trying to
right.
sideline it, so one group or another has a better
Advantage,
chance
right.
of, advantage or whatever, so as best as we can. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Happy holiday, too. Okay. Item 8, discussion approval of council needs annual report and approval of the 2019 senior tax work-off program. And I'd ask our COA Director, Marion Sullivan, to join us at the table. Good evening.
Good evening. What a pleasure to be in this lovely building for a meeting.
Who paid you to say that?
That's how I feel about it.
You know that.
It was funny today, we were still calling at the new senior center, and a resident who recently retired, she said, well, when did it open? I said, ooh, that will be 19 years in January, but we have fond memories of our 5.5 years at the Kidder Library, so. All right, so thank you for having me in tonight for my, I think it's not really quarterly, half-term report. So I thought I'd start with some good news. You all know that we had a shortage of staff over the summer when Tricia Kelly returned to Town Hall. To say it was difficult was an understatement, but I think most of you have met her, a new member of our team, Wendy Daly. She is, without a doubt, a ray of sunshine in this building. She is colorful. She hasn't worn the same outfits since she started. People come in and they're like, Wendy, it's so nice to see you. And then they call on the phone and they describe her. You know, the lady who has the beautiful clothes. Well, that wasn't Nancy, me, or Alice. But she has just fit in like a glove. She has a great attitude. We had certain events where she was in the kitchen doing dishes, helping serve. She's not afraid to tackle anything, so we are beyond thrilled to have her as our newest team member. I'd also like to give a shout out to someone I call a team member, Elder Affairs Officer Patty Mandeville. I hope you saw the flags that last Friday in the pouring rainstorm, Patty positioned 50 flags in the building to honor our veterans. Patty is another gift not only to this entire town, but to the seniors of Milton. A senior the other day referred to her as my friend, and I think, you know, Richard, you can attest to this,
I know.
being police chief. It's so nice when senior residents feel that way about a police officer, so we are very, very lucky. On to our next success story, our veterans event. I know Jen was a new volunteer. We appreciated her. She's welcome to come back anytime and help us. Melinda and Katie, I know you were here and you saw firsthand, but it is without a doubt our favorite event of the year. So let me just put on my glasses so I don't forget anybody. So first of all, I'd like to thank Patrick and Brendan Newell, owners of Pat's Pizza. I don't know if any of you know them personally. They live in Milton. Without a doubt, two of the nicest people on the face of the earth. For the past 14 years, they have done a sit-down dinner, turkey dinner for our veterans, 122 meals this year. And before the last dish was put away, Patrick called to say, we have shot anything? What can we do? We want to do it again next year. Just good people. They also had a few little leftovers that they sent down to the elderly nuns at Fontbonne Convent. Then Donnie Lopez, another Milton resident, owner of Lopez the Florist, every single year, beautiful, beautiful centerpieces. Dermot Quinn and Cindy, owner of Green Hills Bakery, red, white, and blue patriotic cupcakes. Just good people who do things for the right reason. And about 4 years ago, as you know, the World War II veterans, the Korean War veterans, the numbers are dwindling. And they come here, and it's just, our oldest veteran here was 100, and they just come and they're so grateful that we appreciate what they do. So we thought it might be a good idea to give them a gift certificate and say thank you for your service. Now, I don't know, probably Richard only knows this, but I am like a woman possessed when it comes to these gift certificates. I don't know how many emails I sent out.
I got a few.
A few? It's a small thing we're looking for, $25. Some people give $50. But I have to be honest and say I was disappointed in a lot of the Milton merchants down in the square. I mean, 20, how can you say no to a veteran? I don't know. But I will say that We had a gift card for every single veteran here in attendance. I had 8 left over that Kevin Cook sent to some veterans who couldn't be there. So we're going to take a big ad out in the Milton Times to thank them. I'd also like to give a shout out to one of the kindest people in the town of Milton, Ken Quigley, president of Curry College. I text him now because I'm really getting good on social media. And I said, Ken, it's a veterans event. He calls me on the phone. He says, okay, what do you want? My credit card? What do you need? You can have it. And he sent us a very nice check, and he said, buy the gift certificates that you want, and if you fall short, call me, and I'll take care of it. You know, I just think a lot of people could take a page from his book. He has never, in 25 years, I celebrated 25 years as director 2 weeks ago. Ken Quigley has never said no to anything I ask, so just a big shout out to him. You can't do an event like this without volunteers, and we have some of the best ones. I'd also like to give a big shout out to Kevin Cook, our veteran agent, and another member of our team. I see firsthand what he does for the veterans of Milton, and it is incredible. He is without a doubt one of the kindest gentlemen I have ever had the pleasure of meeting, so he really makes them feel special. Okay, now to the statistical part. So our numbers here are up. Everybody seems to come back in September and October, exercise and wellness classes. A lot of people who retired over the summer, younger seniors, my friends are now coming here to partake in classes. And I think it's really great that they have this building and the opportunity to do that. Excuse me, our van rides are up. In the month of October, we did 602 van rides to medical appointments, grocery shopping, and activities here at the senior center. As people age in place, you all know that one of the first things that they give up is driving. So right now, we have a full complement of van drivers and 5 vehicles. It really, I think for the elderly of Milton, it's a real plus and a reason to want to, age in place in the town that they love so much. This past October, we also started, finally here in Milton, an Alzheimer caregiver support group. We have been trying to get this wonderful facilitator, Joan Wright from Hingham, to join us in Milton because they have it in Hingham, and in my opinion, she's the best. But it's sometimes hard for people to get down there. So now she does it in Milton 1 day a month, and it's been very, very well received. We submitted our FY20 budget, submitted on time, and only a slight increase in the HVAC cost. Okay, here we go. So the building has a few problems. When we first started here, utility bills are high, and I'm certainly not saying it's because of the night meetings we have here, but we have a problem with the HVAC system. I can't thank Mike enough for jumping on board and, doing what he could in his capacity to have somebody come in and look at it. Our electric and heating bills have skyrocketed. We're getting electrical bills $8,000 to $10,000 higher than they were when we first came into the building. We spend our day, no exaggeration. I did it, we had a Mahjong class today 3 times getting up, changing the thermostat. There's something in the system, it jumps, it won't hold like, your thermostat at home. So we really, really need to get it looked at, but that was the only slight increase we had in the FY20 budget. The personnel line actually went down because Wendy Daly was at a lower step. So
Right.
we really value every single dollar that is given to us by the town. If we didn't, the seniors would let us hear about it because they tell me often, this is our tax money, so they want to make sure they get what it's worth. So before I get into the senior tax work-off program, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about what's going on here, what you're hearing, anything I can answer for you.
Go ahead.
Is that HVAC, is that something that could be done with the capital committee? Is that something that could be a capital?
There's a
capital
plumber
improvement?
coming later this week to address it. But they've tried to address it in the past. The Consolidated Facilities employee couldn't quite put his arms around the problem, but Bill Ritchie's committed to.
What they said, Mike, is the system that was installed when the building was designed is a poor system because all of the utilities are in the attic.
Yeah.
And, the building is loaded with windows, so the windows are extremely drafty. But that's, we've always had the windows. And there's just something that's not right. And it seemed to happen after we had the flood in the building.
So if they find out, maybe it's something you can go to the capital committee, I mean, maybe, you know, it's a capital thing that you can get done.
So they are gonna
rather
bring
than
a
just put
plumber over and,
Yeah,
you know,
rather than just
take a
put a
look at it.
Band-Aid on it, maybe you can just,
Right.
you know, get it overhauled, you know?
I would like to thank Nancy Stewart and Mary Ann. Nancy Stewart seems to be the
Yep, she
on-site
is.
real-time whiz when it comes to resetting the dials, but it's definitely a going concern that Mary Ann has voiced several times that needs to be addressed.
Is solar a possibility we can do it? I mean, I know there's a peaked roof.
I'm not sure. I know there have
Bill's shaking
been
his head
several
no.
solar companies looking at other locations in town. The lights were retrofit to
Yeah.
Right,
LEDs
I do
recently
that,
as
I
part of
know
the
that.
Green Communities Grant, and those took a
Yeah, we
while
haven't
to
gotten the
adjust.
bill since they've been installed, but we're hoping to see some savings
Yeah.
on that end. Took a while to get used to them, but we're all adjusting.
Okay. Anybody else? Good? Next.
All right, senior tax work-off program. So I think you got the report on what we did for 2018. As I reported last year, we now work on the calendar year as opposed to the fiscal year. I'm still not convinced that's the way to go, but it's the way it ran last year and it has this year. Again, we had 25 slots approved by the Board of Selectmen. We did a huge PR campaign this year. We were listed on the town website, our monthly newsletter, Milton Access TV, church bulletins, and the town's social media. Only 17 residents availed themselves of the program. My thoughts, in addition to the calendar year, are, since we started this program, it's in its 14th year, we're still giving the same tax, I don't know what the correct word is, not
Right.
abatement, but a credit of $750. Other towns, Hingham has gone up to $1,000. I don't know, you know, I know this money comes through the assessor's office. I don't know if it might be a possibility to maybe think about increasing it to see if that would make it worthwhile. So the resident wants their, and the financial guidelines, I've attached them, they're very, very, you know, lenient. They're screened, and then they would do based on the minimum wage, which this year was 11, would do 66.25 hours to get the $750 tax abatement. Most of them are at town hall. They love being town hall greeters, and a lot of the residents have said to me how nice it is to open the door to town hall and have somebody say, "Good morning" or "Good afternoon, how can I help you?" The schools don't get as much advantage of it as I think they should, because, again, January it starts, and January to March, a lot of the seniors won't commit to going out because of the weather. So then they're ready to go in April, and then they can just do April, May, and June because, you know, the schools close. We had a lovely, lovely lady in the DPW office, and she loved it. Chase Berkeley was extremely happy with her. People in the health department. The favorite is definitely town hall greeters, and Stan Dworkin, who has been up at the animal shelter for many, many years, helping up there. So I really don't know why more people, we send out a lot of packages, and then, I don't know if people just look at it and say, you know, well, I'm paying $9,000 a year, what's $750? So I don't know how we could look maybe to increase it, maybe even $100, and just see if that might attract more people.
So, there isn't a demand, like, everybody who comes forward who wants to do it is able to do it?
If they qualify.
If they qualify.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the reason for changing the timing?
So about 2 years ago, I believe it was Wellesley, it might have been Weston, they received a fine of, it was a small amount from the federal government saying, you know, you should really be doing this on the calendar year. Do you remember that, Katie? Not the fiscal year?
I really don't
Yeah.
remember the specifics
And
of
so
it.
Emery Fagan, town administrator at the time, said, gee, I don't want Milton to get a fine. And we went back and we just said, well, gee, let's just do it on the fiscal year. But changing it, I'm sorry,
On the
take it away
calendar
from the
year.
fiscal year and put it on the calendar year. But I think that's, we had always filled the 25 slots and even had waiting lists, so I think that's what it was. Because most of the people who were doing it, you know, mid-70s, early 80s, and, you know, they just won't commit to that winter schedule. So that's the only thing I can think of that might have changed.
Oh, thank you.
And maybe, we want to sit down with the Board of Assessors and think about, could we go back to the calendar year?
Let me go back to the fiscal.
The
year.
fiscal year.
Fiscal year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense, and increasing the incentive to
Mhm.
1,000, I think that would probably, if you're talking about someone with a $9,000
Right,
tax bill,
right.
with $1,000, that's significant. So, if we can increase it by 1,000 and go to the fiscal year, maybe you get more participants. And why is it limited to 25 slots? Is that something that we set, or?
Yes.
is that-
When we first did it, Mike,
Was
it was
first
10
created.
slots, and then we had 15 slots, and
Okay.
for the last 8 years, it's been 25 slots.
And is there any magic to that number, or is
Well,
it?
it's just what, is it called free cash that they get from the assessors to offset this?
I see.
That's the money that was available.
Okay.
At the time.
Okay.
Oh. Well, I'll put a plug in for it. My mother was at the DPW for several years, and she just fell in love with everyone, had a great experience, and she's been a greeter at Town Hall, too. So if anyone's...
It's a great program, and it makes them
really
feel
is.
they're still worthwhile, viable to,
Right.
do a job. And I have to say, they're on time. I knew your mom well when she did it down there. They're on time, they dress, and they're happy to do it, they really are. But I just think, the change in the months when they could do it, and maybe a little increase in, even $100 would be, something different we could try and.
Can we make that motion tonight? Can we change the figure?
Let me look into it with the
All right.
assessor to see
Yeah, I
where
think the
where
assessors
this,
have
yeah.
have to take a
Yeah.
vote on it. I'm almost positive they do.
So we'll come back to that? Do you want to hold off approving it then until because in case there's a number
Yeah,
change?
it's not until January 1st
Okay.
anyway, so.
And should we somehow be looking into that possible legal issue to head it off at the pass if we want
On
to
the-
change
The fiscal,
that?
back to
Right,
calendar?
Right, okay.
Linda, what
Certainly.
I can do too is check with the Executive Office of Elder Affairs and
Okay.
find out, get their best practice. They kind of say it's up to each individual community, but I can get information on that for you.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead, Michael.
I was
Go
just going to
ahead.
say, if the assessors are checking the amount, whether we can increase it to 1,000, they might check the numbers too, because to the extent that you have more people interested, if you
Right.
said you had waiting lists at some point.
We did.
If we can increase the number of slots too, that might be something that we want the assessor to weigh in on as well.
So given that, I'd be inclined to put off approving it until we know the numbers on the board. Are we okay with that? So you won't have to come back. We'll just,
I don't
we're
mind
gonna,
coming back.
we're gonna approve it, but let's see what we can do as far as enhancing it, upgrading it,
Okay.
and increasing the number. Okay? We'll put this on the next, hopefully they can be quick on it.
And I'll do some research
Okay.
on the other end.
Anybody else?
Just if I might add,
No.
Okay. No, having these wonderful individuals at Town Hall as a greeting source it's so pleasant. We have one so committed, she would take a taxi to and from every day.
Oh, yeah.
Every day the taxi would pull up, I'd see it outside my window, and there she was. She'd come in and check in at the office, and it's literally a breath of fresh air. It really is. Very welcome addition to Town Hall.
And years ago, I'm going to date myself, we used to have a position in Town Hall, there was a desk and a lovely woman there who would, that was her job, and then,
Right.
Due to budgets or whatever, that was taken away. So I think it's nice that it's kind of back again, and one man said it makes paying the tax bill and the water bill and the storm water bill a little easier when you have nice, Leona there saying, "Good morning, how can I help you?" So I think it's a win situation for everyone. And the department heads have been fabulous in, working with the library, and, just people really appreciate the help, and they're willing to do anything, and they're good workers.
Okay. Very good. Anybody else? Go home. You've worked long enough
All
today.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Okay, item 9. I'm gonna go to 10, and then I'm gonna, because I have it, and Michael will take over from there. But so, item 9, we have a discussion approval on the master plan implementation committee townwide traffic study proposal. This is for, Mr. Clark, come join us. I know the amount. I'm just thinking, this is for 2020, correct? Am I right, Katie?
Yeah,
2020, right?
it's actually incorrect on the agenda. It's really meant to be just an approval of the budget request
Right.
that the MPIC is putting in, not specifically to approve this traffic proposal.
Okay.
It's both.
There is.
Go ahead.
It's a
The floor is yours,
$200,000
Mr. Clark.
request. 150 of it is for a transportation, 50 of it is for looking at studies in new zoning and similar to what we did this year.
Right, so 50 is the normal.
50 is what we have had for the last
Yeah, but I think we
2
need to just caution on the word normal, because the
Right,
committee
okay.
has really made a point of saying that that number's gonna fluctuate
I get
over its
that,
10-year
okay, I get
existence,
that,
so there might
okay.
be a year where we're asking for
Then I'll
300,000.
take back normal.
And there might be a year where we're looking for 75. So you're right, Richard, it's been 50 the last 2 years. Last year, I think it was just by default, that's what got submitted, but we've actually, we spent more than that this year because we dipped into our budget to cover some of the costs. So that's the last 2 years' number, the last 2 years' amount that has been approved, but the intent is for it to fluctuate as the projects that the committee is looking at vary.
Right, and this year, it seemed that traffic and transportation rose to the top, and we've been looking and discussing a town-wide traffic model and analysis. I requested from a contractor was a proposal to develop a town-wide traffic model for Milton that can be used to evaluate potential transportation improvements and assess the impacts of future development projects on our transportation system. Traffic using Milton local roads to avoid the congestion on the expressway on 128 has been a long-standing issue. Our local roads are experiencing high volumes of cut-through traffic at high speeds that have negatively impacted the quality of life for Milton residents. The focus of this project would be, or this study would be, to construct a traffic model that will provide town staff, boards, and committees information to make transportation and land use decisions. The transportation model will help the town understand the transportation interactions and impacts for all the proposed and planned projects. The traffic model will allow the town to test the impacts of alternative transportation improvements and impacts of what-if land use, development and transportation scenarios. Results of the model and analysis can be used by the town to consider circulation changes, traffic calming measures to discourage cut-through traffic and to reduce vehicle speeds, zoning changes such as mixed-use overlay for East Milton Square. The town-wide traffic model would include all the highways, the arterials, the major collector roads. The model roadway network will include connections to adjacent communities. Greater model definition in terms of roadway network and traffic analysis zones can be provided in the neighborhoods such as East Milton, Town Hall Center, and 138. The traffic model would be to develop a town-wide traffic model using Vista Pro computer software. The traffic model will contain and study roadways, intersections at existing peak hour traffic volumes, intersection controls, and traffic analysis zones. We wind up putting all the information that we have for all of our intersections. We put all of our signal lights in here, and it has all the geometry. What we do is we create a model that is literally, it's like watching a cartoon on your computer screen, that we can actually add cars for certain turns, we can add cars for peak hours, we can take away cars when it's non-peak. We can see where the traffic flow is going.
Bless you.
Thank you. It's actually we did it for East Milton Square for the deck project, so we have all of those. So when we start talking about the level of service down there, and we're saying it's A, B, and C, we actually have models of that level of service in the square. What we're looking here is to put it into other places. We do all of the square. We're not talking about just the deck. We would be talking about adding in other particular areas, Milton Village, East Milton Square, the consideration of the potential traffic light at Granite Ave and Bassett, the traffic improvements at Granite Ave and Squantum, the proposed intersection improvements for Adams Street and Squantum Street, a road diet for Granite Ave north of East Milton Square. Any and all projects can be put in here. We can do things with, the state is looking to do a corridor, or they are doing a corridor study. They're looking to do major improvements to 138. They've come back and told us this is what they would like. We've come back and we've made some comments back to them. Running this type of program would give credence to why they should spend their money in a certain area, in a certain intersection. We're saying that we believe that you should look at the jug handle at Canton Ave, Brush Hill Road, Blue Hill Ave. Putting this kind of a system, we can actually add cars. We can see what would happen if they take and put a left-hand turn from 138 onto Brush Hill Road. It's just real-time movements that we can actually use to help further our decisions.
Are we talking, am I correct, you've already decided who's gonna do this? Is it
No,
Beta?
no, so I think
We
we
have
need to
to-
clarify that the master,
We asked a contractor for what's it gonna cost us?
Beta.
We asked Beta,
Right.
but Beta's been working with us on a couple of other projects. They've been working with the town engineer. We have the same kind of contracts with Howard Stein Hudson for East
Right, all
Milton.
right, I get that.
We
Okay.
have Beta working on stuff for Milton Village. Town engineer has Beta working on a couple of other projects. It just happened that the master plan consultant for traffic was Jeff Maxtitutis, who worked for a different company. He just happened to come over to Beta. When he came over to Beta, he'd already been talking to the master plan committee about some of these ideas. This is just continuity of that project.
so the master plan and implementation committee has not even seen this proposal yet. The chair and Bill requested this, but
Okay.
our committee hasn't seen this, so we're not actually voting on any proposal. This is just
We're just gonna fund it.
support for
Right.
what the committee's requesting for its budget, which is the $200,000
We would need to go
request.
for RFP
So
because
planning
of the cost.
component
I
of about
figured that.
50, and then we added in about roughly ballpark 150. This is a little less than 150, but it's just support for the budget request, which the planning board has already voted on. We haven't, so we'll have to vote it maybe at the next meeting to ratify it, but,
It's not out for approval tonight.
no.
Okay.
It's just on as approval of a townwide traffic proposal, which is not what we're actually voting on.
Wanna put it on for approval on the 28th?
Yeah, or for the budget ratification. I think the budget's already been submitted to the town administrator.
Correct,
I don't know
yeah.
if the narrative has been done yet, but at least the number has been submitted.
Narrative have, yes. The 200 is differentiated with the
Okay.
Right, I get
150
that.
separated out.
All right, the committee hasn't seen the narrative, but we're meeting after, I think Monday after Thanksgiving, is that correct? Committee's meeting the week after next, so we'll probably be
Yes.
talking more about this then.
It's just I didn't know which meeting you were talking about. Yes,
The
master
MPIC.
plan is meeting
Yeah.
Monday after. There's just too many meetings.
Life is just one big meeting.
And obviously also
Seems
with the
that way.
not the housing committee, the traffic mitigation committee.
Right.
The MPIC wants to work with the traffic
And
mitigation
it
committee.
states that throughout this documentation that we would be working with the traffic mitigation committee.
Right, and now we have all our members, we're gonna get rolling, and I've been in touch with Cheryl about working, working with the MPIC on this, MIPC on this. One thing that occurs to me in looking through this is whether and to what extent we can extend this and work with other towns, because one of the helpful additions that the town administrator made to the charge of the Traffic Mitigation Committee was to take a regional approach.
Right.
So to the extent that we're only looking at a model that is defined by the boundaries of Milton, that may be limiting. So for the MIPC and for the study, we may want to have the opportunity to expand that and perhaps, work with or speak with Randolph or Quincy, just to see if they'd be interested in that kind of approach. So I think we just need to make sure we take that kind of expansive approach.
I mean, that makes sense.
No, and to that point, I've had communication with Town Administrator Aspinwall in Canton and the new Transportation Director in Quincy, whose name slips me, and the Community Compact has a regionalization grant that becomes available on January 15th. I asked them if they would support us in a regional traffic study. This may help fund this initiative. And both communities said yes. I haven't spoken to Randolph yet. Obviously, I can reach out to Boston, but to that point, the regional approach is the best way to make sure that, especially with all the corridors coming in and out of town.
And the fact that both 95, or 93 and Route 3 both run through, individually run through our neighbors, that a great part of the traffic issue here is more than just us. It's a regional issue. So it only makes sense to do that.
We already, because of the different corridor studies that we're participating in right now, 138, we know that Canton is working with Central Transportation Planning staff on that corridor study at the same time. So there's a Canton component, there's a Milton component. We haven't seen Cantons, and I'm not sure that Canton has seen Miltons, but we are talking to the same engineers. We have been talking on the Route 28 stuff. Howard Sign Hudson's doing that one, and they have been talking to Quincy. They've been talking to the state. They're talking with DCR. So we do have some of these things that are working regionally. I found it interesting that when we started looking at the traffic counts on Adams Street going into Boston, that we'd never talked to Boston, and then Boston had never talked to us about the lights. They have their lights, we have our lights, and what do you mean we've never talked to them? It just never took place. I said that to Mike. Mike goes, here's the phone number, and all of a sudden, we have our wiring guy talking to their wiring guy. It just never took place before.
Okay, I have to run. Are we voting anything on this tonight? No.
You're gonna come on the 28th, do the money?
Whatever you want. Oh, you want to come, so the 20th, we'll put on for the money on the 28th. You all right, Katie? We'll do that?
Yes.
Okay. Done deal. Amy, so you're good? Chair is yours.
All right.
Thank you. All right, I'll see you.
Thank you.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank
and,
you.
See you on the 20th. We'll talk about it. And just to Katie's, just on on the email yesterday, February is, from my perspective, is still on. I think we're gonna need a special town meeting. I know, I talked to Mike, the fire station, but
February 25th and 6th.
definitely is on, they definitely will be ready, so we're gonna have some things, we'll be able to do that, so we can talk about that on our next meeting. All right, thanks, so yours.
Paul? Pauls. You're staying, he's leaving.
I'm here.
He's here.
Yes.
See ya.
All right. Item 10, we have an application for the Milton Club for a one-day liquor license. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve a one-day liquor license for the Milton Club for Sunday, November 18th, 2018, for the Karate Art Show.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Unanimous. Item 11, discussion of the trustees of the Affordable Housing Trust Funding Plan. Is this the town administrator or the secretary of the board? Who is this?
This is
This is Melinda.
Secretary of
Madam
the Board.
Secretary.
That's right.
All right.
I'm a member of the Affordable Housing Trust, and we haven't met recently. However, I thought that it might be a good idea for the board to consider asking the trustees to propose a funding plan as something for us to consider and work with, because the trust has come up a number of times, and it seems that there are probably a number of ways to fund it using a number of different sources, and I think it just would behoove the town to take a look at it.
So just the thing that occurs to me in terms of funding is we have $5.3 million from Pulte, and so it seems to me that might be a discussion of how much of that should go into the Affordable Housing
Well,
Trust.
I know that that's been a discussion in the past, but I think it needs to be formalized, and I've had a number of people say to me, I think myself included actually, I would be happy to, if this were a trust that was publicized and, it has a wonderful purpose, I would contribute to it. But we need to have a mechanism for that, and so that was something I just thought we might ask the trust to look at, the trustees.
So how do we do that? How do we communicate to them that we'd like them to propose a funding plan?
Right. Well, first, I think we have to agree that we do want that. And then I would be happy to propose that and see if that's something that the trustees would think worthwhile.
Meaning the Affordable Housing Trustees to propose how we might help them to raise funds, or
Well,
just how they may raise
just
funds?
how funds might be raised, looking at a number of sources, I guess. I don't know. We'd have to have that
Private
discussion.
donations, development projects.
Right. I mean,
all
we
of
we
it.
might want to go and look at what other affordable housing trusts
Okay.
do. I recently went to the YIMBY conference, which is short for Yes in My Backyard. And Martha's,
Repeat that, because I just want to make sure I heard that. correct.
Yes in My
Wow,
Backyard.
that's great.
Yeah, I mean, there were people from all over the country at Roxbury Community College, and it was really well done. There, a group came from Martha's Vineyard, and, bless you, not only did they have a really wonderful model for public outreach and explaining to people who benefits, which is really everyone, but what their neighbors were experiencing, and they also shared how they funded it, and it's a number of different sources. So I just think that's part of looking at all of the housing needs, but their purview is affordable housing. So I just think that if other towns are able to do it, I think we can look at that too.
Do we know how much is in the trust right now?
I want to say there's about $150,000.
$150,000,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean,
I
it seems
think
to
it's
me
a little
that,
more now. I think it,
The Affordable Housing Trust?
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought it was around 60. I didn't realize it was that high.
I thought we put $90,000 into it last year.
Right,
And there was,
something like 87 or 90 or something,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
maybe
that
it
rings,
is
that
then.
rings,
So I think
that
it's
rings
about-
true with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me that if we had a more robust affordable housing trust, it could serve as a counterweight to a lot of the housing and development issues in this town. For example, if you had a developer that you could assist with their affordable housing needs, then you might have situations where developments might not head down the 40B route. But you're not going to do that with 150,000 in the
Right.
affordable housing trust. But
Right.
if you have a robust fund that you can use as a counterweight to threats from developers, frankly, and that could be a real benefit.
Well, and our planner who just left has mentioned that from time to time, smaller properties come up for sale. And if we could buy those down, we could actually keep them at a reasonable cost for people, instead of having, what does happen often, somebody comes in, tears it down, builds something bigger, all the prices in the neighborhood go up. So it affects the affordability overall. And I know that we want a balance of increasing values, but also keeping people here who've dedicated themselves to the town, or a new family, or what have you. So,
Anything else?
no.
All right, on to item 12, which is a discussion of the energy aggregation. And is this the town administrator's
this is the
presentation?
town
All
administrator.
right.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Members of this board, I do want to credit Selectwoman Conlon, who brought this issue up on October 10th, reinvigorated this conversation. So the energy aggregation process is a multi-step process. Conversations began with me as the town administrator in November, when John O'Rourke from Good Energy LP reached out about multiple communications about discussing municipal energy aggregation for the town of Milton as we lie in an MAPC service area. That went forward to town meeting and was approved on May 7th. The next step in that process was this board, signing a services agreement with Good Energy on July 9th. On October 10th, Selectwoman Conlon thankfully brought it back on my radar. The next step in this process is a procedure for review by the residents. And what happens in this case is we put this 96-page document on the town's website, and we advertise as such in the local newspaper for a 2-week period. With this board's permission tonight, approval, we would get it into next week's Milton Times. And then after that 2-week period, this board would meet again. November 28th would be too soon, so at the December 12th Select Board meeting, we would have a public hearing to open and hear any of the oral or written comments that we heard about this, after which we could take a vote, and then it proceeds into the hands of Good Energy. These are all rules set by the Department of Public Utilities. Again, this is an opt-out program for members of the community, and basically what this aggregation does is it buys the residents of the town cheaper energy. And it is this body's right through the town meeting article that was passed. It's town meeting Article 35 from the 2018 May town meeting, which approved this body to solicit a contract to go out and do that, and that is Good Energy. This is the next step in the process, at which point we would be back on December 12th to read and hear any comments that may have been garnered from its advertisement on the website and through local print media.
So do we need to take action to approve the advertising of this? Is that?
Yes,
is that the-
if you would, and then
Okay.
that would set forth our advertising it in the Milton Times next week and putting it on the website for a 2-week period.
Okay, so I think the motion is probably motion to approve public advertising of the Town of Milton Municipal Aggregation Plan. Okay, so do we have a motion?
Well, I have a question though
Oh.
before we do that. So is that everything that's, so we have right here something called petition and supporting documents. Is that what you're referring to as the aggregation plan? Is all of these, so we have a petition?
Yeah, we have a certificate insurance, which we received from Good Energy. There's a multi-step process. This is step, 6 of 12, I believe. 6 and 7, if you will. Step 8 will be when we come back here, and then Good Energy will meet with DOER to review the aggregation plan, take their guidance. Step 10 is consultation with the Department of Energy Resources and a public review period. And 11 is an issued consultation letter regarding the plan itself.
So,
So-
all right, so what we have here, so we've got this petition for approval of municipal aggregation plan, then we have all these attachments. One is historical overview, the plan itself, the public outreach plan, and then there's the electric service agreement, which I think we're probably gonna need town council to at least look at the electric service agreement. But, so it's it's the petition as well as all the attachments that will be,
Correct.
that will be up on the website or wherever we're gonna
Yes, yeah,
advertise this.
the 96-page document that was supplemented with this procedural review.
Okay. I mean, there's a few typos that, there's references to Board of Aldermen that are just from another community that
Right.
need to be fixed in the petition, and they refer to city rather than municipality, which is how they're defining us. So I guess that could be fixed, but I just wasn't sure whether all of these steps had actually been taken. For instance, on page 2 and number 7, it talks about MAPC having issued an RFP, so on behalf of the town. So I guess the question is, are we just posting this, will that happen later? And by posting this form, we're just letting people know what the steps will be and what will be happening?
Yes, and basically open to any of the comments that, very similar to the ones that you found in the document, that can be answered
Okay.
and verified before we proceed to Board of Selectmen approval, which would be on the 12th of December if everything goes accordingly.
Okay.
And then it's Good Energy meeting with DOER on behalf of this board and the town as put forward in the town meeting article, to review the plan and get their guidance before filing with that department.
Okay.
Mr. O'Rourke said that this stage of this 2-week review period is very engaging with the constituency. It raises a lot of the questions that can be answered. There's part of that whole procedural review is a cheat sheet about, some of the stuff that goes along with it. The objectives of this aggregation program are to lower the cost of electricity, gain a longer-term price stability, offer more renewable energy options, et cetera, and it's a chance for those questions to be answered in person. Mr. O'Rourke is working through his schedule to get here on the 12th and supplement a lot of the questions that I quite honestly can't answer. It's just, he's an expert in the field. He's done this in many communities, as he's testified to before, but I think to your point, Selectwoman, it's to make sure that this document is especially unique to Milton, and Alderman is changed with Select Board, and City is changed to Town, and it's the vetting process through the residency.
All right, so do we have a motion? I mean, I thought the motion would be motion to approve, publishing the Town of Milton Municipal Aggregation Plan. Is that the motion we're looking for? All right, do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to publish the energy aggregation plan publicly on the Town of Milton website.
And also, well, we're not going to limit it to that. I think we're going to
Right.
also do some advertising in the Milton Times.
Correct.
So,
It requires that same 2-week period.
right, so I think we're going to, I think the motion is to
Do you want your
publicize.
your original language was
I think
good.
that sounded, I mean, I don't want to quibble.
Motion to approve public advertising of the Town of Milton's aggregation plan, energy aggregation plan.
Are you accepting that as a friendly amendment?
Is
Because
that-
it's going to get confusing in the
Yeah, that's
minutes.
right.
Sorry.
That's right.
I couldn't remember it all.
That's okay, no, that's fine, that's fine.
Sure, I accept that, yes.
All right, so motion's been made. We have a second.
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 Well,
Actually.
okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. All right.
Mr. O'Rourke ensures me that the picture gets clearer and clearer with each box check.
I'm sure it will,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, item 13, board and committee appointments. The Housing Committee, a subcommittee of this board. And any discussion before the motion? All right, do we have a motion?
I move to appoint Melinda Collins from the Board of Selectmen, Lauren Macer from the Planning Department, Richard Bowler from the Planning Board, Thomas Gallahan from the Trustees of the Affordable Housing Trust, and Katie Conlon from the Master Plan Implementation Committee to serve through July of 2019.
We have a second.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Item 15, board and committee appointments to the Council on Aging. This is a reappointment. Do we have a motion?
I propose to reappoint Ms. Louise C. Viveris of 22 Mountain Laurel Path to serve on the Council on Aging Board of Directors through October 31st, 2021.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Item 16, the Town Administrator's Report.
Thank you again, Mr. Vice Chair, members of this board. A lot has happened since we last met. Obviously, we went through a very successful state election where the clerk and her staff and volunteers and everyone that helped put that together topped the ticket with a 77.6% voter turnout, which was the highest on the South Shore. Fueled by the nearly 20% turnout in early voting, which I had mentioned previously. It's a new dynamic in state elections, which obviously the town of Milton and the residency is taking advantage of. So kudos to the voters and all those who sought election, and the clerk and her staff and everyone that volunteered to make it such a successful day. Obviously, Sunday was Veterans Day. It was the second part of a two-piece weekend to honor our veterans. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend Sergeant Carrada's event on Saturday. I did see the video and heard most of the testimony, and it was quite a day. I know most of this board was there in the weather and elements, and very poignant video up of Mr. Carrada's brother as he spoke, but his brother who served so dutifully for our country. I was here also for the Veterans Luncheon on Thursday and was able to meet and greet many of the veterans here. So a very, very eventful and remembering weekend for the veterans who have given us everything that we have, and their families. I think everyone made special mention of the families who also sacrifice in these times. So that was a very, very good outpouring from the town. From an operational perspective, I want to thank the Truro Cedar Terrace neighborhood that's been waiting anxiously for the roadway construction trucks to reappear, which they did this morning in full force as we try to get most of these streets back online. A lot of them have been ripped up for 3 or 4 months now. So again, want to thank the neighbors for their patience, and it shouldn't be too long where these roadways are restored. We did get a request into Town Hall recently about the deplorable condition on Adams Street as you come from Quincy towards East Milton Square. That is a product, unfortunately, of the National Grid lockout. The water work, water drain, and sewer work that we done in there was completed in June. Unfortunately, the lockout occurred, and the infrastructure work that National Grid was supposed to do hasn't been performed, so there's no sense in repairing the road only to have to rip it up again. So we are at the mercy of the lockout, and as soon as hopefully successfully that ends, we can get Adams Street brand new and completed, which was the plan, to have it done by July. So again, apologies to East Milton, where a lot of construction and interruption has gone on in the last year, and we hope to get Adams Street restored to its beauty as soon as we can. Let's go through my notes. We have active shooter training taking place in Town Hall for all employees on December 3rd. Something that Chair Wells had brought up and Chief King had offered to us. Sergeant Jack Richmond is going to be performing that. Unfortunately, it's the world we live in nowadays, but the better trained we can be should such an unfortunate incident take place in Town Hall. So look forward to that. Just lastly, the Finance Committee met last Friday, and we met with a group called ClearGov. Basically, it's a transparent software application. Towns like Arlington, Medway, other communities throughout the state are using this application to promote where your finance and tax dollars are going. Received notification from the State House today that we received a $21,000 grant, and that product should be moving forward by the first of the year. Credit to the Finance Committee for sitting down on Friday. We listened to a somewhat shortened but very productive presentation of what the product can do. Tom Hurley from the Warrant Committee was there, along with the town accountant. Very good dialogue as to what communities are using it for and how it would fit for the town of Milton. So happily received that grant application today, and will be processing the paperwork shortly. And that's
Couple
it.
questions for you.
Sure.
Mr. Town Administrator, while I have your ear. Could you please give us an update on that electric vehicle charging station?
Sure. So again, sorry for the inconvenience in and around Town Hall the last week or so. What they're doing out back is there's a 2-vehicle electric charging station that's being installed. There was some curbing issues with, we fixed the front of Town Hall on the town green last year. where the edge stone wasn't set properly. So while we install the electric charging station and the power from the conduit to the charging station was being fitted today, we were also resetting that edge stone. So there's a lot of construction going on there. The missing piece in all of this, we expect that electric charging vehicle station to be up midweek next week, is our first electric vehicle, the Nissan Leaf, which was going to the building commissioner's office, is somewhere lost in transit.
Okay.
I spoke to the distributor today, Clay Chevrolet, and they are trying to locate it for us.
see. All right.
So we're just waiting for the other piece.
Okay. And that station is devoted exclusively to the town vehicle, correct?
No, there will be
No.
two charging stations. In my history in Boston, there was a charging system, if you will, no pun intended, where a swipe card was used for residents to charge,
Okay.
and they would be charged for the energy.
Right.
We will roll it out as something that the town will take a look at going forward, but the charging station is available for any electric vehicle in town at this point. After a couple of months or so of the energy bill, we'll take a look at it and revisit that.
That's my question.
Many communities have gone from it being free and having the town pay for it to then coming up with a swipe card system where if you want to charge your vehicle at the town hall electric vehicle charging station, you'll pay the town back for the energy.
Right, okay, good.
But initially, it's going to be both for private
and
vehicles,
public, yeah.
yes.
Well, there's a lot of Teslas around, so,
Right.
you know, if you can afford a Tesla, you can probably afford to charge.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Report of the chair is not here. Any members? Ms. Collins?
No, well, I just want to thank Administrator Dennehy for applying for that grant and doing it so quickly. This is really exciting software, and I think that we're going to see a lot of benefit from it, and so will the residents.
Right, and if you want a sneak peek at it, go on the town of Arlington or the town of Medway, and you can see it's pretty dynamic. A lot of the information they get is from DLS, which is reported by the town to DOR. They take, there's a school portion to it, there's an insights portion to it, but it's pretty neat. It shows people where the tax dollars are going.
Is that all? Ms. Conlon?
Thank you.
I don't have a report.
Mr. Farrington?
I'd just like to echo some of the sentiments earlier from Mike regarding Kevin Cook and the event that he put on for Sergeant John Carrado on Saturday. I thought that was wonderfully attended, very well run, very well done. Echo the sentiment earlier from Mary Ann Sullivan. Kevin is a true asset to the town. I think we're very fortunate to have him. Barbara Martin oversaw the annual Veterans Day event, which she does every year. She did a great job along with all the people that participated. I thought it was a great one-two punch. We're all there. It was wonderful, and Milton they come out strong for our veterans, which was great to see. So.
It was actually a third punch. On Friday, the Cunningham School Principal John Redden always puts on a Veterans Day event for veterans, veterans who are parents, veterans and service members who are parents of students. They have a speaker, they have a video, they have a flag waving, they have music, and they do a wonderful job. So it actually makes it a 3-day. It was a 3-day event. So
Then if you include Thursday here at COA,
it's
1, 2, 3, 4, right?
a 4-day
All right.
event. Exactly. All right, on to future agenda items.
I have a
Mr.
laundry
Dennehy.
list. I would also be remiss if I didn't echo Chair Wells's comment before he left that it appears by all accounts that we're going to have a special town meeting February 25th and 26th. We heard from the library trustees tonight. I know the Fire Building Committee is actively putting an article together. I have 2 articles from the town treasurer about some bond authorization rescindment and some premium issues. Yulin Rink, we're still talking about putting Yulin Rink on for a town meeting article. And I believe the planning board has some housekeeping type articles that they're working on in addition to some of the other major projects which may or may not be ready for.
So whether in making that decision, will we be teed up to make that this board be teed up to make a decision on whether we're going to have a meeting on the 28th?
Yes.
And the debt stabilization, that would be saved for the annual? Or did you mention that and I missed it?
So the Hurley petition?
Yeah,
So that would need approval by this board to get on a referendum on April 30th.
okay, so it wouldn't even need to go through,
It's
Town
already been passed at town
I
meeting,
don't know why I didn't remember that,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
but that would need this board's approval to get on.
Okay, oh, but not town meeting approved it, but just the referendum has to go through us, not that, okay, thank you.
Future agenda items. The assessor is going to come in for a tax classification for FY19.
Is that the 28th too, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
The National Grid moratorium, that expires on the 17th at this board, which would be Sunday? Monday? No, Saturday, excuse me. Pilot committee is going to come in sometime in December. Animal shelter is due to come in. I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, but the MBTA vending machine location, their Cubic Transportation is the name of that group. They're still putting their agenda together. The fire department educational incentive is coming in on the 28th. Bob Hiss, who unfortunately had a charity event tonight, couldn't make it this evening. We deferred, that was item 6, I believe, from tonight. That's going to be on the 28th. The Stormwater Advisory Committee met last night, and we have a bit of good news that we will announce on the 28th. Let me see. Possibly in an executive session to talk about some of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee stuff that we're working on as we near 6 months left in the current 5-year contract. We have some boards and committees appointments, and the Policy Committee is going to meet on Monday to talk about some stuff that may or may not be ready for the 28th.
Right,
And I think that's it.
great. Anyone else? Katie?
Yeah, I have two things. One is we're gonna have to start thinking about town meeting articles for May of 2019. So, maybe December, well, the deadline, we'll have to figure out what day we're closing the warrant. But, so it would be early January in any event, so we may need to we should be thinking about that now and talk about it in the next meetings. Also, I think the Finance Committee should probably give a report at one of the December meetings. We've been meeting frequently. Melinda's been taking the laboring oar on the financial policies. We're looking at free cash and other policies. So I think that those hopefully will be ready to at least start circulating and getting input from the board members in December. And maybe we can give you a report on where we're at.
Great.
We've thrown out, I've heard a December 12th date mentioned, but I don't think we covered December dates earlier. Do
We
we have
didn't.
proposed dates for December, just so we can
No,
plan?
that's the second Wednesday, so I threw that date out there
Oh,
only
okay.
because second and fourth Wednesdays, but that's, I'm just looking at a calendar and,
So I guess we'll approve those dates on the 28th.
Yeah, because we know what a busy month that is.
yeah,
Right.
sorry about that. I was,
Right, that's all right. Okay, anything else? Anyone else? Future agenda items? All right, citizen speak response. I don't see anyone here. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn,
I make a motion to adjourn.
second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you. Now, I will call to order a meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Fund. And the first item on the agenda for the Governor Stoughton Fund is the Milton Food Pantry grant request for the dairy voucher program of $15,000, I believe is the amount of the request. So is there any discussion before we consider a motion for that?
It's consistent with prior years, so I'm comfortable making the same amount, giving the same amount this year.
So do we have a motion?
I move that we approve a request from the Milton Community Food Pantry, Inc. for its dairy voucher program in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Third item on the agenda is the Governor Stoughton Town Farm Verizon easement. We're not in a position to ask for an approval at this point. Discussions with Verizon. about that easement and about the poles, actually, and about whether we're going to include in that easement some reference to the town's right to put attachments on that poles for broadband and other such things. So we're currently in discussions with Verizon about that, and we'll see where we are on the 28th. So that is the end of the agenda for the Governor Stoughton Fund, and so I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, and we'll see everyone on November 28th.